Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Jonathan Cohn, and today I have my book review of the book Jupiter by Ben Bova. This is one of the many books in his Grand Tour universe. I have started Ben Bova last year, and I absolutely loved the first book of his that I read, which was Mars. I loved Mars. It's one of my top, I'd say it's one of my top two science fiction novels of all time. It's an amazing book about space exploration and about the perils of it and the difficulties of financing it and all that stuff. And Ben Bova just has this way of writing hard science fiction, of writing this science fiction about space exploration that I just love. And so he did an amazing job with the first Mars book. And then I read the next Mars book, Return to Mars, which was enjoyable, but it wasn't amazing. I just thought it was enjoyable. That's what I'll say about it. But it didn't live up to the first. And so I was like, well, hopefully he'll return to form. And he did with Mars Life. I have reviews for all these books on the channel, by the way. Just look up the title of the book and my name and you'll find the review. But this book was almost as good as the original, and it cemented for me that Ben Bova is one of my favorite science fiction novelists. And so I have a bunch of his other Grand Tour novels on my shelves, and the way he did this Grand Tour universe, you can, depending on where in the universe, you can kind of pick where you want. There's a spreadsheet, and I'll put it on the screen now, that kind of shows that the book series start on the left, and the ones towards the top go in from left to right. That's a series, and towards the top is the earliest in the timeline, and at the bottom is the latest in the timeline. And you go along, but you can kind of start anywhere on the left. And so I started with Mars, and it was a terrific starting point. And I had the book Jupiter, which is the first of a 2-book series, with also, I think, Leviathans of Jupiter is book 2. And so I'll be reading that eventually. But I absolutely had a blast reading Jupiter as well. I don't think that this is quite on the same level as Mars or Mars Life, but I still think it is an excellent science fiction novel that asks a lot of really excellent questions. The basic premise of this book is that our main character, Grant Archer, is an budding astrophysicist, and he is basically sent to this station, this basically space station that is orbiting Jupiter, and that's not what he wanted. He wanted to go to the moon, but instead he is sent to Jupiter, and he is sent there because this religious fanatical order called the New Morality, which has now controlled the government and controlled space travel, wants him to spy on the people in this Jupiter base because they believe that they are doing something nefarious, but they don't know what. And so he is a scientist, but he's also part of this fanatical group, kind of, in a way. He doesn't go as far as the fanatics do, but he considers himself a Christian. And so it's interesting to see the dilemma that he has of, do I actually spy, do I not spy? Does science and religion mix? And I'll go with those themes a little bit. So that's basically what happens. And the people on Jupiter, or at least on the space station orbiting Jupiter, they believe they may have found sentient life. And that is what they are exploring near Jupiter. And that's all I'll say about it. And this book, as I mentioned, explores great themes about religion and science. There's so many that believe that they are in direct contrast, but when in reality, religion and science can be working together. And this book demonstrates when they can do both. This shows the bad part of it, when people in religion don't work with the scientists and when the scientists don't work with the religious people. And then this also shows the best, when they work in tandem with each other. And I found that really fascinating. This book also deals with the themes of, if we found other intelligent life, how would we react to it? This is kind of it's not exactly it's kind of a first contact situation, but not in the traditional, we meet the aliens, we discuss things with the aliens. This is we have no communication. If we find aliens, we don't know what language they speak, how would we communicate with them? And so this is really about like the budding first, what would that kind of be like? Also, there's a little bit of discussion of what kind of science goes into having the space station orbit, what kind of science goes into preparing you to go to Jupiter itself. How big is Jupiter? You get a sense of the scale of Jupiter in this book, which is just really excellent. You'd think, oh, it's just another planet. It's huge, and that is excellently explored here. I thought the character of Grant Archer, the main character, he's done very well. I thought that he has some times where he messes up and some times where he does the wrong thing morally, and he has to have consequences for those. And I enjoyed the way that that Ben Bova made that feel natural in the book. And I appreciated that even though I disagree with Ben Bova on a lot of worldview, on certain things he gets it right, and there's something with Grant's morality that he ended up getting right, which I appreciated. As a plot, this isn't quite as strong as Mars or Mars Life in that I didn't breeze through it in the sense that like I had to see every single page was important and all of the subplots and all of the, there's one subplot in here that I was just kind of like, and it kind of takes place in the middle of the book, and I was just kind of like, I'm kind of ready for that to be over, and so that wasn't as strong, and that's probably the biggest deficit that the book has, is that the middle is not the strongest, but the beginning and the end, oh my goodness, the end is superb. The end is fantastic. The last 70 pages, top-notch science fiction. And the first 100 pages, I also think, are really excellent science fiction. I'd say even the first 200 pages. It's like there's like a middle, 100 pages that are just a little bit iffy and just not quite as exciting. So, that being said, I really enjoyed Jupiter. I think it is a fun, interesting, thought-provoking book. Ben Bova knows how to write themes. He knows how to write space exploration. He knows how to write drama and infusing things like the business of space travel. He is great at all of those things. He writes good characters. The one thing is the plot in the middle just was not as strong as it could have been. But if that's the only problem you have, you still have a pretty darn good book. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. So a really, really strong entry. Better than Return to Mars, certainly. But like a really strong entry in the series. And I'm excited to read more in the Grand Tour universe and more Ben Bova books, as he is just solidifying himself as a top science fiction author. So if you've read Jupiter by Ben Bova, it's actually one of his more reviewed books besides Mars, let me know your thoughts in the comments section down below. And if you like this type of science fiction, what other books do you recommend? Everyone says the Kim Stanley Robinson Mars trilogy, and I have that trilogy. I intend to read that eventually as well. But what other hard science fiction do you recommend that I read? And until next time, I'm Jonathan, and thank you for watching.